fifth and final round here. We have a very interesting little development here over Twitter. Conor McGregor has said, "I accept." Two words have never carried such weight, especially when responding to Anderson the Spider Silva. They basically want to fight. As this is coming off the heels of Conor McGregor's very interesting criteria that he used to create his GOATs of MMA. His greatest of all time list, he put himself second only to Anderson, to which Anderson has now challenged him. I think it's very interesting because he was doing it on the based on the criteria of array of finishes, knockouts particularly too. Now Conor's got some crazy highlights, and so does Anderson. So this would be a dream matchup. What's some of your initial takeaways from what we would see in a matchup, and then we'll kind of walk it back and say, are we even going to see this matchup?
Let's be real. Like, this fight's not going to happen. He's obviously not going to fight Anderson. I think that'd be absurd because there's no upside, right? You're beating a 44-year-old Anderson coming off of how many
Upside
PED
money.
suspensions?
Dinero,
Right.
baby.
No, I get that, but I don't think there's even that much money in this because there's bigger stars who Conor could fight who could make more money. Now, I'm not saying he's going to fight Usman for the title, and we'll get to that in a second. But even against Anderson, like a prime matchup, okay, that could have been fun because, as we know, Anderson Silva, before coming to the UFC, wasn't even a middleweight. He fought at 170, and he's got the frame for it. So people would say, oh, well, he fought at 205. Well, barely. When he fought against Daniel Cormier at UFC, 200, he weighed in at like 199. He didn't even wait, and he took it on end notice.
Coming up off the couch.
So now he said, okay, so maybe, so it's not like he walks around at 210, 215. He probably walks around 195 or so, give or take, maybe out of camp. Now he's getting older. Maybe he's around 200. But if he were to slim down, he said catch weight 176. That's hilarious. Conor would weigh in at probably 169 because that's how much he weighs anyway. And Anderson would cut more weight to make it, but it wouldn't matter, right? Who really wants to see that? I get, for the fans, it's fun. I love, at one point, Anderson Silva was my favorite fighter. At one point, Conor was my favorite fighter. So I can understand that, but there's no real upside for the UFC because if Conor beats a 44-year-old, who cares? And if Conor loses, then you're like, dude, Conor just lost to a 45-year-old Anderson Silva who's lost his last how many fights in a row, right?
Right, so you'd be basically deflating the balloon of your biggest cash cow at the same time of risking that he just beats a 44, 45-year-old fighter. Like, I mean, come on
this
now.
guy was the best once for a long time, but it's been a long time since he was the best.
I will go ahead and agree 100%. The company, it's just not worth the risk versus reward if Conor could possibly lose to a guy whom we may never see again. It just doesn't make any sense, especially he just fought Israel Adesanya, already kind of passed that torch, so it's a little bit different in that respect. But would the UFC do it? Probably not. I'm gonna say there's a 99.99% chance that they're not doing it. But that 0.01% chance of Lysol germs that survive, those ones, that's the little bit of hope I'm clinging on to here.
Well, the thing is, there's other fights, right? There's other matchups that we could give to Conor at welterweight at 155. Let's just list off some of the fights that he's been linked with, right? He'll fight Gaethje before Gaethje fights Khabib. So Conor could become interim champion.
Oh, that would be so ridiculous. But yes.
Conor could fight against if he's trying to become a contender at 155, sure, he could fight that, but probably Tony, right, is more realistic.
Tony.
He'll fight against.
Great.
He could fight against Kamaru Usman, who's calling him out. He could have the trilogy with Nate Diaz. He could fight against Jorge Masvidal for the BMF title. He has so many options for fights that could make him realistically more money that I think it's unrealistic for Conor. And of course, Conor's going to accept it because in his eyes, he's like a slow Anderson who's 44. I could crush a GOAT and then be like, I'm the greatest of all time. I beat the GOAT. But
that's why that's why he would take it, because it's just like, that's the GOAT. Oh, I just beat the GOAT, so I'm the GOAT.
Right, exactly. By his own standards, he'd be like, well, I'm the best. Like, I'm surprised if he doesn't say, okay, I want to fight John Jones next. Like,
I love
all right, Conor,
Khabib's not even on the list. It's like, because he doesn't finish anybody. It's like, oh, there's no array of finishes.
Yeah, because Khabib was like 8-8-8 for a while. He's like 8 finishes, 8 subs, 8 decisions, because he's just dominant. But anyway, I want to talk about specifically, because it's not often that a champion calls out an opponent, and Kamaru Usman did. He said, I want to fight Conor. And just listening to him plead his case as to why it should be Conor, I thought was actually pretty funny. He was like, well, you look at how many guys Cowboy beat at 170, and Conor starched him in under a minute. And it's like, All the
MMA
while,
match,
you look in his
baby.
eyes, you look in Usman's eyes, and you know he's just saying, he weighs 170 pounds. I weigh 200 pounds, and I'm a dominant wrestler. I would absolutely destroy Conor. And to be fair, of course he would. That's why Dana said there's zero chance of that
He's too
happening.
big.
There's no chance that he's going to fight him. There's no chance. Even Dana, and it's one thing because I remember Conor was saying he was upset when Dana said that Masvidal was too big for Conor. Well, Usman is way bigger than Masvidal. And he's a stylistic nightmare because he's just a wrestler.
Terrible.
And one who's and if he struggled with Khabib, I mean, I'm not saying that Usman's a better wrestler than Khabib. I'm just saying add 30 pounds to Khabib.
Funniest thing I heard Kamaru say in that interview was, I used to wrestle at 155. When?
Yeah, when you were 14.
Like
when he was
14 years ago, dude, get out of here, man. I don't want to hear any of that nonsense. Well, Jorge grew into his body and Conor grew in. Dude, shut up.
It's like, stop. Conor was on death's door making 145. You were 14 the last time you made 145. If you could make a pound below 170, Usman, then sure, have this freaking fight. But there's no way. You look at his frame. There's no way he's making anything less than that.
When he gets to when he goes to make weight at welterweight. So there's no, like, one guy's a huge welterweight and one guy's like a walk around welterweight. Like, what are we talking about here? That's like, this is not fair. So I mean, if you look at Kamaru, it's pretty like blatant. He's just asking for guys that he can
make him the most money. Can make him the most
money. He's not a draw, so he's asking for Jorge because of the BMF. He's asking for Conor because of the clout. He's asking for Colby because of the beef. But he's not asking for Colby again because I beat him already. So you're just kind of sitting there and you're like, okay, so what do you want to do? Like, Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman is the least that you're going to sell the least amount of pay-per-views for a welterweight fight. I don't care about Tyron Woodley's era. That's the least amount of pay-per-views or buys you're going to have.
Yep.
Ever, maybe, since the
except for 250.
Except for the
UFC 250 is going to be really bad, and we'll talk about that one on the next episode.
Like, man, in terms of welterweight division, it's probably the worst one they've had since pre-GSP. I don't know who it would be, but my God, like, that's not it. Like, Leon Scott versus Kamaru Usman is just not going to work. All respect to Leon Edwards. I'm just kidding, Jamaican brother. But yeah, I mean, like, that's pretty much it. Anything else you wanted to add on before we conclude this fifth and final?
No, I think that's going to wrap the show. Really, there's always so much nonsense that we could talk about and we can riff for hours and hours, but we kind of revised the format a little bit here to have, we'll say 8 minutes per round as opposed to 5. And I thought it was fun. I had fun.
I had a lot of fun here. That concludes the 5 good rounds, and we'll check you guys in the next one. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.